Hi everyone, I am Karan and welcome to Karan's Gyan. And the question for today is: are cinema stocks dead? As you know, cinema halls are opening up next week, and so we thought maybe it's a good time to look at India's largest movie chain, PVR, and see what is happening down there. So here's a little secret for you. This secret is PVR's secret. PVR does not make a lot of money by screening movies, and it is a shocker. If I talk about the occupancy rate at PVR's theaters, the average occupancy rate hovers between 30 to 35%. That means on most days, PVR does not even fill half of its theaters across the country. So the question lies, where does PVR earn most of its money from? Well, the answer is simple. PVR extracts a lot of money from popcorn and sodas. So basically, they have a lot of margins in the products of food and beverage segment. Talking about the food and beverage segment, last year the company made close to 948 crores in revenue in the segment. But it gets better. They only bought the food and beverages they sold for approximately 260 crores. That means the products that you are buying at PVR, the popcorn, the coke, the hot dogs, and the nacho, you are buying at a markup of 260%, which makes the food and beverage segment of PVR a very, very profitable endeavor and basically a cash machine. Talking about the F&B strategy, the company would actually be loss making if it did not sell popcorn and soda. In fact, the combos that you see plastered on the advertising walls inside, it's actually a ploy. It's a ploy to get you to spend more money inside. So, even if you didn't want to buy the Coke with your popcorn, you might just buy it anyway because you feel it's value for money. It's actually a tried and tested formula to what companies call spend per head or SPH. SPH is basically the average amount of money spent by each customer on a single visit buying food and beverages. So, if I talk about the last 5 years, in the last 5 years, the SPH or the spend per head has increased from rupees 64 to rupees 99. But if I compare the SPH in proportion to the ticket price, in the last 5 years, the proportion has increased from 36% to 49%. So, what does this basically mean? It means that spending on popcorn and sodas has outpaced the increase in the ticket prices. So, what is the bottom line here? What is the consequence? PVR actually needs good content to survive. PVR cannot just sell food and beverages and focus away from movies entirely. If the content pipeline is bad, not many people would frequent theaters, and thus, who will buy the popcorns then? And thus, their profit margins would drop down if the content is bad and people don't visit theaters. So, the success of the theater is heavily dependent on the flow and quality of movies. Good content almost always guarantees better footfall at PVR, and thus PVR is at the mercy of filmmakers and audiences alike. Take for example what happened in 2015. During 2015, the company had lesser footfall because several big budget movies had failed to impress. The revenues fell down and the profits fell from 50 crores to 20 crores. And actually, the 20 crore profit was mainly attributed to the food and beverages that they sold during these flopped big budget movies. Talking about the impact of coronavirus. So coronavirus has basically had a very, very severe impact to the cinema industry. If I look at the revenue for PVR has poor revenues in both quarter 4 and quarter 1. Talking about the profits, its profits have been affected in both quarter 4 and quarter 1, and thus it was loss making after many, many quarters. Loss in quarter 4 and quarter 1. The impact of coronavirus has been very severe as I previously discussed. Between January and March, the company made a loss of 74 crore. This was despite the fact that the cinemas are only shut for 15 to 20 days. Moreover, things got worse between April and June when revenues fell by as much as 98%. The 2% of the revenues basically came from the bank deposits and some fringe distribution rights. Moreover, you should note that quarter 2 results haven't come and quarter two's loss would be as great as quarter one's loss. If I talk about quarter one's loss, inevitably losses mounted to 226 crores. I want you to note the fact that PVR has never earned a yearly profit of 200 crore in its lifetime, and thus the loss is a huge number. As you can see in this graph, over the past 3 financial years and across various quarters, PVR had a profit of maximum of 50 to 55 crores. But in quarter 4 and quarter 1, it had a tremendous loss and a very bad performance. Also, with the growth of OTT platforms like Netflix, Amazon, and Hotstar, there's a very real possibility that movie theaters might actually become redundant. In fact, many people claim that Netflix has caused the death of cinemas. For that, we'll have to go back in the day. Can Netflix really cause a big blow to cinemas? So, what happened back in the day was when video stores came up, people felt that video stores would destroy theaters and cinemas. However, it didn't happen, and theaters are still surviving today. What actually happened was that video stores had a positive effect on theaters and cinemas. Video stores introduced new filmmakers, new talent, and new artists that were previously unknown, thus driving up viewership of new genres and new talent. However, it must be noted that apart from having a positive effect on movie theaters, OTTs like Netflix and Amazon can cause a blow to the industry. By blow, I mean it would change the industry standard and standard operating procedure. There'll be an added pressure to producers and movie studios, and producers will now try to limit the theatrical window. What do I mean by theatrical window? Theatrical window is the period during which a movie plays exclusively in theaters before being released on DVD or digital media. Well, the theatrical window is important because the exclusivity of a movie is what drives footfall into theaters. And if a movie is available on Netflix or on DVD at the same time as it is released in theaters, it can drive footfall down. With that being said, will a blockbuster opening be entirely possible for PVR? As you know, cinemas will open on October the 15th. However, it's a phased opening with some restrictions. For starters, there is a restriction on occupancy rate. Occupancy rates can't exceed more than 50%. But if you think PVR has nothing to worry since they have only occupancy rate of 30 to 35%, sir, I feel you're wrong. Because on blockbuster days, occupancy rates can go as high as 60 to 70%. And if the movie is really good, you can expect housefuls for many days. And hence, if the occupancy rate is set at a threshold of 50%, by the law of averages, the occupancy average occupancy rate would be dragged lower than 25 to 30% according to various estimates. Moreover, there'll be extra costs associated to opening up theaters. Based on guidelines and standard operating procedure, cinema halls are expected to clean and sanitize halls after every show. They're expected to provide PPE kits to staff, and they're expected to clean places with frequent touch points. And thus, this might push costs higher and eat into PVR's healthy profit margins. But the question is, the biggest concern after all is, are people finally ready to visit movie halls? And if people are ready, how many would visit movie halls? And as my viewers, I would ask you to tell me what you think about it. Do you think that PVR would expect continued footfalls over the next few months? And or do you expect PVR to be profitable by the end of the year? I would like to know what you think. Please comment on this video and give me your valuable insights on what you think about the profitability, the near profitability of PVR. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you very much and have a nice day.